Hoop 7 proudly brings to you Basketball Hustle.
Ellis fumbled the ball. 2 on the shot clock. Throws up a prayer. Yes! As he was falling to the ground, it's a 3. He shot it literally from the hip.
Definitely a highlight.
Here come the Billikens. 4 on 2. McCall. Ellis. Left corner.
We're missing out.
Bang! From way down under. Cody Ellis. Reddick brings low out away from the basket. Stolen away by Cody Ellis. One man to beat. To the hole. He's fouled. Layup. Good. Whistle foul. Count the basket.
Ellis for the reverse. Through fingertips. What a move. Ellis drops in a bomb.
I love seeing Cody Ellis coming out, feeling good.
Ellis. Cody Ellis. Ellis. Pull-up jumper. Cody Ellis. Bang. Cody Ellis, can he stand and deliver? Cody Ellis.
Now it's time for another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle.
Hello and welcome to Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle for another week. And boy, Cody, isn't there a lot to talk about in the world of the NBL once again? We'll hear from Damian Martin to get his votes in the Damo Award. We'll speak to Matty Knight and get his Player of the Year votes because there was a lot of standout performers in round 8 of the NBL. And we'll hear from the Adelaide 36ers Hall of Famer Scott Ninnis to pick out a Galen winner for this week. But Cody, we've got a lot to focus on ourselves. The New Zealand Breakers just keep making statements and defying the odds in a lot of ways. We're seeing the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix flexing their muscles. The Cairns Taipans, they fired thanks to Keanu Pinder. We saw Xavier Cooks make a inspirational return for the Sydney Kings, but then the difference when he wasn't out on the floor was quite stark. We've seen the Brisbane Bullets implode since we last talked. Interesting times for the Melbourne United and Perth Wildcats, who didn't quite fire. So, Cody, that means we've got a pretty packed show here thanks to Hoop 7. How are you holding up this week?
Oh, not too bad, mate. Cooped up. The wife has COVID, so sitting in the bedroom currently speaking to you, mate. So not ideal, but no, look, NBL-wise, there's a heck of a lot going on, and big round with some teams making some big strides and some other teams just kind of falling by the wayside. So, yeah, lots to talk about.
No, there sure is. Before we get into all of the NBL action, how are you holding up? Firstly, how's Lauren? How has she been hit by COVID, and how are you and the family holding up? Because you've got a guest for a little while at home too, and COVID came at the absolutely wrong time.
Yeah, mate, it sure did. No, look, Lauren's doing good now. First day was a bit crappy for her, but she's doing good now. Rest of us have been fine. And yeah, got Lauren's mum in town from the States, so she was in for a day, and then all of a sudden we've all got to stay inside for a few. So not ideal, especially in this weather. But yeah, man, it's all good.
How's your aircon working right now?
Fantastic, which is great.
Oh, thank goodness. I mean, and she's come from the cold as well, so it's a big shock for her.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it kicked into gear right in time for her to get in town. So, look, she's from St. Louis, so she understands the heat as well. But yeah, coming from the cold isn't ideal.
Now, before we get into the NBL action, we're here thanks to Hoop 7, so check out the store if you're in Perth and head to Murray Street in the Perth City for the best basketball store you'll come across, or if you're anywhere else, just head to hoop7.com.au for all of your basketball goods. And Cody, since we last had a chat, you've been in to visit Jason and his team, and gee, that store just keeps surprising every time you go in, doesn't it?
I did, mate. I did. I finally got in to see Jason and the boys, and I was in there for about an hour and a half having a chinwag with them, which is always the way, which is great. So picked myself up some new shoes, which is always good, and kind of seems to happen every single time I walk in there, which is it doesn't bother me, but I love it. So, it's certainly a store that you need to get into if you haven't already been into.
Is it pretty much the only store you've ever come across, at least in Australia, where you're able to find shoes your size? Have you always had to order online apart from Hoop 7?
Yeah, I have. It's always been an online thing. So to be able to actually go in and at least try a pair on has been fantastic. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it's catching on now, and lots of people are in there, so you got to get in early.
Absolutely. I'm always surprised that it's so busy, and it's great to see. So thank you to Hoop 7 for supporting this show. Let's get into our action, Cody, because there's so much to cover. Let's get straight to business and talk about the top 4, because I think especially what we saw on Sunday with those two dominant wins from the New Zealand Breakers and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. I think we saw a clear case that those are two of the contending teams, and unfortunately I think we saw that the Illawarra Hawks and the Brisbane Bullets are probably condemned to being the bottom two teams. But the Sydney Kings and the Cairns Taipans, I think that top four, I honestly can't see it changing.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. I think that those top four are fairly set. Realistically, unless the Sixers really make a push and one of those teams kind of fall off, it'll be teams fighting for that play-in spot, those two play-in spots. But look, the Breakers, the Kings, the Taipans and the Phoenix have all really over the past couple of weeks just really stamped their authority on the league and are all playing really good basketball, and it's been fun to watch across the board. So, if a series between the Kings and Taipans is going to happen, I will not be upset with the way those games have gone so far.
Oh, absolutely not. And, it's fascinating the Phoenix and the Breakers too. They played once and the Phoenix touched them up, and they play again Thursday. And then, those games, the Breakers and the Taipans have been really physical battles as well. So, yeah, they're fascinating matchups. What all four of those teams have is a dominant big man. Maybe not a traditional big. I don't think you can call Keanu Pinder or Xavier Cooks a traditional big, but in this league right now, they're playing that role as a big. And, you look at New Zealand and the combination of Derek Pardon and Jarrell Brantley is really firing. And Alan Williams is an unstoppable force for the Phoenix. There's no one in the league that can guard him right now. And, we saw him absolutely dominate the Illawarra Hawks, just like we thought he might, with their lack of a front court. How important is it to have a good big man in the league right now?
Oh, it's becoming more and more important. I think that, especially in that 4 spot, has been really, really dominant from, like you said, guys like Cooks and Pinder. It's super important. I think, there's no real wonder why those 4 teams are as dominant as they are, because they all have dominating bigs in that inside spot. So, the teams that are kind of towards the bottom of the ladder don't really have that dominant force. I mean, you got Brisbane with Bainesy, but he's not the Bainesy that
they don't use him.
Well, they don't. He's not playing as many minutes as we thought he would. So yeah, look, I think that obviously the Breakers with Pardon and Brantley, they've been unbelievable. Zave at the Kings, we know what he can do. Pinder at the Taipans has been another breakout season for him. I think it's it's time that we start talking about him as in the MVP race as well, not just as most improved again.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, look, Williams with Phoenix has been unstoppable. He's kind of just proven time and time again that no one can stop him. He's just too big and strong and just kind of wills his way in there. Yeah, it is. It's super important. It's a spot that you absolutely need if you want to be successul.
Now, Cody, if you were in the league right now, you'd be guarding each of those guys at different points. How would you go?
Oh, goodness me. That would be a nightmare every single night, mate. Yeah, look, that's a heck of a task for anyone. So, yeah, look, I don't overly envy people having to guard these guys, but it would be a fun little challenge.
No, for sure. Who was the one guy that maybe was a bit bigger than you that you had to guard during your career that still gives you some flashbacks?
Oh, Matty Knight would have to be up there. Oh, look, any of the Cats guys, really. But, I had to guard guys like Wertho and Mika Vakona, Anthony Petrie, Alex Loughton, like some absolute studs in that position. And it's one of those things that kind of 4 spot, especially in our league, has been fairly dominant for a long time. So there's always been, legitimate players in that position. So to see it take that step again is really cool to see. I'm loving it.
A couple of those guys you mentioned we might talk about later in this show. We'll hear from Matty Knight, and also another one of those guys. I want to throw something at you in regards to the Brisbane Bullets too. But before we get to that, I want to touch on the Adelaide 36ers. So I think that was their best performance so far this season last Thursday night to beat the Perth Wildcats in Perth. And I think that chemistry is starting to build. Their defense is improving. They're starting to play like the team that we thought they would. And they've done that by getting a little bit less talented. But as a result, they're getting everybody a lot more involved. And I think Mitch McCarron running the point has been good for them. Sunday Detch is now more involved. Same with Anthony Dremick and same with Antonius Cleveland. And then they're getting a dominance out of Daniel Johnson and Robert Franks like we thought they would. I mean, 60 points in the paint against the Wildcats, and they again dominated the rebound count against Perth, which is an issue for the Wildcats, but a good thing for the 36ers. Want to get your thoughts. Things are now starting to click for them. Is there the potential now that if they bring in a new import, and I think CJ Bruton is set on bringing somebody in, is there a chance that it upsets the apple cart? Should they potentially consider just sticking with what they've got?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It is a tough one because, any team loses a guy of Randall's stature and his talent, then you'd expect them to try fill that void straight away. But with this Sixers team, they're already so talented. And, you're right, they're really building chemistry right now. And I think they're starting to play really good basketball. Big thing for me is how Anthony Drimmick has stepped up.
Yes.
I think he's been unbelievable. Everyone else has stepped up. But I think Drim has really kind of taken that challenge and said, I'll be that spark. And he's been really good for them. The focal point of their bigs was something that we thought was going to happen at the start of the season. Didn't really go that way. But now that, they've had some games without Randall in there, I think that they're starting to click on all cylinders, and McCarron running the show, and then Sunday stepping up as well. It's a tough one because, are they a piece away from being, nearly unstoppable? Maybe, but I think if they keep going with what they have, I think they can build to be a legit contender again.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we learned a lot this week. I mean, they played both Cairns and Sydney. If they can play well against them two teams without another import, maybe they consider not doing it. If they lose both these games, maybe they realise they need another piece. So I think we might learn a lot more this weekend. I don't know if we're going to learn a lot more about the Brisbane Bullets or the Allura Hawks, though, Cody. That was tough watching these two teams on Sunday against two really good teams, but to watch them both lose by a combined 71 points across the two games, it was pretty ugly. We saw the deficiencies in both teams. I mean, do you see any hope for them moving forward? Is there any way out of finishing bottom two for either of them?
No, I can't see it. I mean, the Hawks, while they've added a really good piece in Fraser, it didn't cover what they needed.
Well, it proved our point exactly, didn't it?
Yes.
Where Alan Williams and Mitch Creek did absolutely whatever they wanted, under the basket because they didn't have a front court that could stand up.
No, they didn't. And, we did say that if they were trying to replace King with a like for like, then Fraser is probably the perfect guy, and it's probably an improvement. But
and he played fine. It's nothing against
him.
He
was great.
It's just that, yeah.
I thought he came out, he was aggressive, he did exactly what, we've seen him do. I mean, he was the only one that could score for him to start the game when he came back in. So, but yeah, it just, I don't think it helped the team as a whole because, like we've mentioned before, they're missing that piece inside to help bolster their bigs and help Froling out. So look, I don't see them really turning a corner anytime soon. And same with Brisbane. I mean, sacking the head coach, having the bloke who sacked him come in and step in as the head coach is an interesting ploy. But I think they spoke about how their defense has been really good, and that's probably where they've been the best so far. And then
I was surprised Sam said that post-match.
I know, because that game did not show that at all, unfortunately. And I think it's just a bit too disruptive there right now. And it's a frustrating one for Brizzy because it's a few coaches in a few seasons now that they've gone through. I don't think that is really the problem. I think it's starting from higher up, unfortunately. And yeah, look, I can't see them turning a corner anytime soon either because Sobe still doesn't look like himself yet. They're not using Baines, and it's just, it's got to be frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for the team.
This is our first chance to talk about it. What was your reaction when you found out that James Duncan was? I mean, there's no way in saying it's a mutual parting of ways like they tried to spin it. He was he was sacked. There's no ways around that because he wanted to keep the job. What was your reaction? I was surprised in the timing of it. I mean, why not do it when they lost the first 5 games and things were looking totally disjointed? Or why not do it during the FIBA break? Why do it one day before you fly out to New Zealand? Yeah,
I have no idea. I think the timing was a little odd in that one. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they've gotten rid of him. But you're right, the timing has been kind of all out of whack and really has been Brisbane to a T right there, unfortunately. So I don't know if they're actually looking for someone that can come in and take over, but I think the fact that McKinnon took over proves that, you know, the staff don't have too much faith in the assistants.
Well, what does it say for Peter Crawford and Greg Van Jad? I guess it's either a case of neither of them wanted to put their hand up, or secondly, the staff didn't think they were up to it. I mean, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And look, from the outside looking in, it looks like that they don't have faith in those two to run the team. I have no idea. It's a tough one. And you know, at this point of the season, is it worth bringing in someone who's, unless you've got a legitimate coach that's, you know, willing to jump on board, would you let those two run the show and see how they go? I don't know. They've got lots to do and lots to figure out, and all it is taken away from the guys on the court, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I don't think they know the answer to that either. I mean, asking Sam McKinnon about it after the game on Sunday, he mentioned that their CEO is in the United States right now talking to the owners, trying to work out what to do going forward. So I think they made the decision without knowing what they were going to do next. But my thoughts are that you can't bring in somebody not already involved or familiar with the NBL mid-season and start coaching. That would be impossible. So I think if they're going to bring somebody else in, it has to be somebody familiar with the NBL, somebody familiar with this team. So I think you either stick with Sam or give it back to PC and Vandejat, or I want to throw this at you, Cody, and get your thoughts. Anthony Petrie, he's a guy that's got the universal respect of everybody, and he also knows the guys on this Bullets team pretty well. He coached Jason Cody and DJ Mitchell and Tanner Krebs to a championship in the NBL 1 North at the Gold Coast Rollers. He lives close by. I think he wants to coach in the NBL, certainly at one point. This might not be how he envisioned it, but he knows the Brisbane Bullets organisation. That's where he finished his career. Could he be an option?
I think he'd be a great option. You know, like you said, that he knows most of the guys because most of them played for him in the NBL 1. So he's got a good relationship with a lot of them anyway. Him and Jace Kadee are as tight as anyone.
Yes. He played with Sobey in Adelaide?
Yep. Look, I think that he would probably slot in perfectly, and someone that, again, knows the NBL. He knows the guys. He knows the system because I'm sure he's been in and around at practices every now and then. I wouldn't bring in an outsider because, exactly like you said, you need to know the league, especially if you're coming in halfway through. You need to know it, you need to understand it and how it works. So, yeah, I think he would be perfect, and it'd be so good to see him back in the league in some form. So that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely would be. And if you don't have to guard him in the post, that's a positive too, because he would have, him and Mika Vukona would have to be the two toughest guys you battled against just about, wouldn't he?
Oh, absolutely. They were both tough as nails. Two kind of different players, but the same at the same time. It's if that makes any sense at all. But two just great dudes off the court as well. So
they are, yeah.
I think, I think Peach would be great.
Last one on Brisbane. I was curious to find that Aaron Baines didn't make the trip to New Zealand last week, but he has jumped on a plane this week and been in Canberra for the NBL's Indigenous round launch. So he's obviously feeling okay. So that means that I assume he's playing on Thursday night against the Wildcats, which is a good thing. When he's back on the court, whoever's coaching the Bullets, surely they just have to make him more of a focus. And even if he can only play 25 minutes, which it looks like he can, just let him go to work and play like Alan Williams is. No one can stop him in the post if he gets the ball in the right spot.
Oh, 100% right. I think if whoever is coaching, getting the ball down low, he's going to make the right play because he's a willing passer and he's a good passer out of the post as well. But like you mentioned with Alan Williams, if throw him the ball down low, who's going to stop him? He's so big and strong and smart, and he understands how to score at the highest level under the rim. So I don't know why he wouldn't be a focal point. Obviously, you don't want to just bring the ball down the court and roll it into him straight away. You got to get some movement first because we've seen teams do that, and that doesn't work in this league because of how we're allowed to play defense. But he has to be a focal point. Doesn't matter if he plays 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. When he's out there, he needs to be with the ball in his hands, I think.
Yep, absolutely. And against the Wildcats, it's the perfect time to do it. We've seen how teams can dominate them inside. So if the Bullets want to bounce back, this is a great chance for them to do it. We'll talk about that later in the show, Cody, but let's take a deep breath now, and then we'll come back. We'll run through the rest of the results of round 8, break down the action, and then we'll hear from our guests and get our awards done for this week.
Sounds good, mate.
Okay, Cody, let's keep moving on Hoop 7's basketball hustle. Only 6 games in round 8 of the NBL, but they're all fascinating in their own ways, and it started back on Thursday night in Perth, and we always felt this would be a defining game for both teams, and it probably proved to be, where the Adelaide 36ers showed what they're capable of, and the Perth Wildcats, showed that they're probably a rung down from the top 4 teams at least right now, and the 36ers won 96-82. Then Friday night, this was a fascinating game, and again, the Breakers just proved too tough and too hard to score against for the Cairns Taipans, and they won 82-71. Saturday night, fascinating game again. Melbourne United led just about the whole way against the Tasmania Jack Jumpers, but they couldn't finish the job, and the Jack Jumpers just found a way. 94-90, they got the win. And then Sunday, these were 2 good games if you're a Breakers or a Phoenix fan, not so much if you're following the Bullets or the Hawks. So the Breakers first up, 116-79 over the Bullets, and then the Phoenix 112-78 over the Hawks. And then Monday night, thank God for this game, Cody. This livened up things once again. This was the thriller, went to overtime, and the Keanu Pinto-Xavier Cooks battle was fascinating, and the Taipans got the job done, 94-88 in the end. We've touched on most of those teams already, but anything else jump out that you might like to focus on?
Oh, the Melbourne Jack Jumpers game. I'm pretty sure Melbourne shot 50, 40, 90 for the game as a team.
They did, yeah.
And to turn around and somehow lose that is just insane. I was watching it thinking, how are Tassie still sticking around? And it's one of those things that I don't know why I'm still surprised when Tassie find a way to stick around, because I don't think they had their best game at all. They were decent, but I think Melbourne was doing pretty much anything they wanted. And yeah, I'm still dumbfounded at how Tassie ended up winning this game. So yeah, it's certainly an interesting one, but I think
I mean, Melbourne led the whole way, like you said. They seemed like they were in control. I don't think they could have asked for any more from their backcourt. I mean, Tucker 23 points, 10 rebounds. Golding hit 5 threes for 21 points. Radden Mays 20 points, and Marcus Lee I think showed some really good signs as well, especially as a defensive presence. 10 points, 8 rebounds. I mean, in a lot of ways, Melbourne couldn't have played better. They just couldn't put them away. No,
they couldn't, and all credit to Tassie and just how they play and how they find a way to stick around. But I think Tucker was unbelievable for Melbourne. I think he was really good for them. His energy, and he's kind of one of the reasons why they were in that game for so long, or up for so long. That dunk he had down the middle was ridiculous.
Yeah.
They were talking about it contending with Zave's dunk, but it was good, but it certainly wasn't that good.
No, not quite. I equally liked his block up the other end. I mean, he shows that he can play both ways.
He does, but it almost looks like he wants that highlight down the other end rather than just being solid.
Yes, because he does get blown by a little bit too easily, doesn't he?
Yeah, which sometimes I'm sure is deliberate to try and set up that big big block. But the other thing that I would like to talk about, and something that we've spoken about multiple times, the Kings and Taipans game, the end of the fourth quarter. Why on earth do teams keep shooting a 3 with a tie ball game or even down a point when they don't need to?
Well, you tell me, Cody. I mean, Derek Walton had that last possession. All Sydney had to do was score, and they win the game because scores were tied. Derek Walton had a good matchup. He had one of the bigs from the Taipans matched up on him. He could have got to the rim as easily as he wanted. And I think the only way the Taipans could have stopped him was by fouling him, because we know how good of a driver he can be. He settled for a fadeaway 3-point shot over I think it was over Wardenberg. I might have to check, but
DJ Hogue, I'm pretty sure.
It was over Hogue. Either way, it was over a guy a lot bigger than him. Well, I mean, what happens? How does it happen?
I don't understand. Like, it baffles me every single time, and I don't know why it keeps happening. I don't know if it's a set play, if it's, just
That
make a play.
Couldn't be what was drawn up, surely.
No, it can't have been, because it was a bit of a sloppy play, really, where Sydney usually execute in that situation. I don't get it. I don't understand, and I don't know what's going through players' heads. All you have to do is get 2 feet in the paint. You can get
Especially
that kick-out
him.
shot. Exactly.
That's his strength.
It frustrates me to no end, and like I said, he gets 2 feet in the paint. If everyone collapses, then you get that kick-out 3. That's an easier 3 anyway. I don't know. I thought it was set up for a Sydney thriller win again.
Yes.
And look, with Zave fouling out with 3.5 minutes to go, wasn't ideal for them. But again, it proves how important he is to that team.
Well, it was remarkable. They were in control of the game still when he fouled out. But from the point he fouled out, the Taipans outscored them 10-2 to close regulation, to force overtime. And it was 26-12 without him in the game. And Keanu Pinder was unstoppable. I mean, it's fascinating. The last time they played in Sydney, when Koat Noi hit that game winner, Pinder fouled out for the last 7 minutes of that game. And that's when Sydney took over. And now it was the opposite here. I mean, it was a hell of a battle, but it just shows how important both those guys are.
Well, they are, and Zave played 20 minutes and had 25 and 10. That's a heck of a comeback game after an ankle injury, which is never fun. And look, I'm hoping that once finals comes around, and if these two teams are facing each other, I hope those two guys can stay in, because I expect to see 30 from each of them every single game, and it be a nail biter like this one was.
Yep, absolutely. I'll chat to Matty Knight about both of them as well, somebody that knows a fair bit about the big fellas. Last thing on that game, Sean Bruce, he hit the game winner last week against the Illawarra Hawks. This week, hit the side of the backboard when he had that chance.
Yeah. He was not set at all. It was, it wasn't ideal, was it? As soon as it went to him, I thought, oh, here we go again. But no, look, he never really stamped his authority on the game like he has in the past few. So he kind of seemed a little bit out of whack, which was a bit un-Brucey-like. But that was one I'm sure he wishes he had back.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Cody, when we come back later on, we'll chat a bit more about some of these teams when we get to our previews for round 9. But let's get to our awards this week, and we'll hear from Matty Knight, then we'll hear from Scott Ninnis, and then when we come back, we'll go through Damo's awards, and then we can get stuck into the week ahead.
Perfect.
Okay, back on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, and I'm joined by the 3-time NBL champion, the Nightmare, the best power forward of his generation. We'll get to his Player of the Year votes. Matty, how do we find you this week?
Yeah, good, mate. Interesting week of basketball.
Sure was. I mean, I think we saw the top teams really make a statement, and unfortunately the bottom teams probably show that they're a fair way off the mark. What sort of stood out to you from what you saw?
Yeah, no, I think you're getting to that halfway point now where the better teams are starting to play their brand of basketball. And then you got the Brisbanes who are making coaching changes and what's up there, it looks like. So, but no, I think the top 4 teams right now are starting to separate, and then there's a couple of teams fighting for that 5 and 6 spot.
Absolutely. Really big wins for the Breakers again to do what they did, both in Cairns and then coming back home to Brisbane to just blow a pretty lacklustre Bullets out of the water. And then for the Taipans to pull that out against the Sydney Kings, pretty impressive from both those teams.
No, definitely. They're definitely showing their credentials this year, and especially New Zealand. Obviously, flying to Cairns, playing a tough game, and having to get back on a plane, get back and play again. But brand of basketball both teams are playing. It's really exciting, and it's really good for the league to see. 2 teams have probably struggled the last few years up at top 1 and 2.
What I love about the Breakers is that they could easily be making excuses now. They've had a horrible travel schedule, and like you said, even again this weekend, to have to go to Cairns on Friday night, fly all the way back home to Auckland to play on Sunday afternoon. I mean, you could make an excuse, and I know that they're exhausted. I know they're doing it tough, but they don't want to use an excuse. They just come out and play hard, no matter what sort of is thrown at them.
Exactly, and that shows your team that's really enjoying their basketball. Like you said, they could So, yeah, we're tired and whatnot to the schedule, but no, they're really enjoying their basketball. And when you're playing like that, you probably want to be playing a lot of games of the week. So, no, full credit to New Zealand, especially. They've had it pretty tough the last couple of years, obviously being in Australia the whole season. So, the travel probably doesn't really worry them a whole lot. But, if they can take care of business now, it's only going to get easier for them when they're playing one game a week and probably more games at home.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get to your Player of the Year votes, I want to get your thoughts on Xavier Cooks up against Keanu Pinder on Monday night. That was a fascinating battle, and probably unfortunately for the Kings, Cooks fouled out with about 3.5 minutes to go. He only ended up playing 20 minutes, but had a massive impact on the game. And then from that point on, Pinder was able to take over and dominate and have the best night of his career. I mean, how much fun is it to watch two big guys like that, go at it against each other?
It's really exciting. It shows you Australia's got some exciting young bigs coming up through the system, and them two are probably the future of the NBL. Both going to have futures ahead of them, and seeing going head to head like that, it's fantastic. And you can only imagine you can get better and better. So those challenges and battles are going to be exciting for the next few years. That's for sure. Not
only the future of the NBL, what do you think the ceiling is for both of them? Do you see any chance that two things? Do you see them contending for spots at the World Cup or Olympics for the Boomers? And secondly, do you see an NBA future there for both or either of them?
Well, both because of athleticism, and that's what it takes to make an NBA. I think both still need to develop an outside shot, but I think both have got an excellent chance of making the Boomers and going further to the NBA. The athleticism of both of them, especially Keanu, he's got a very exciting future, and it's glad to see they're getting an opportunity now to represent Australia and get a taste of it. So, as the older bigs move on, I think there's a huge opportunity there, especially the way basketball's being played now. With you'll be athletic and that. So, I really think in the both push for 2024 Olympic squad. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, Matty, what we've got you here for is our Player of the Year votes for this week. And, it was a fascinating round. We only had the 6 games, but plenty of big performances. Why don't we start with your one vote for this week?
Yeah, one vote this week is Milton Doyle from Tassie. I was looking for a while that Melbourne were probably going to sneak a win over there, but he came up clutch down the end because McDonald was lucky not to get a vote, but Milton Doyle has been fantastic for him. Obviously had a slow start to the year, but for imports normally takes a couple of rounds to adjust, but he's been fantastic down in Tassie.
Yeah, he has been. All right, what about you two?
Two, we've already mentioned it, talked about him, Cooks. Even though they lost, what he's doing, coming back after an ankle injury to have a game like that, a lot of guys out there that wish they could first game back after an ankle injury like that. But he's the heart and soul of Sydney, and if they're going to have any success, it's going to be really dependent on Xavier Cook.
Yep, absolutely. All right, getting to the business end, what about the 3?
So we got the 5 last week, I believe, but Derek Pardon, he's just going from strength to strength. He had a huge game against Cairns and then backed it up against Brisbane. Probably licked his lips when he's seen Baines and Harris out after the Bullets. But he's becoming the heart and soul of that Breakers team. Looks like he just loves basketball, and he's out there competing every night. He's been a huge reason why the Breakers are having the success they are.
No, he sure is, and his 4-man probably is too. We might be going there next, are we?
I think so. Jarrell Brownlee, he's been very consistent the whole season, and he can do it inside and out. And he's a dangerous player. He's athletic. I think that's what makes Cairns and New Zealand separate from a lot of other teams this year is they've got some athleticism, 1-5, and I think that's the way basketball's going right now. And he can guard 1 through 5 too. Very, very rare for power forwards in this league. But he's had a huge season so far.
Now, that's what I love about him. I asked him after the game on Sunday if he's looking forward to the matchup this week with Mitch Creek, and he said, I don't care. I can guard anybody 1 through 5, and I'm happy to guard anybody, so I don't care who's on the other side. And I think that's a really great attitude to have and a hell of a weapon for the Breakers too. What about the 5 votes?
5 votes. It's man that responded on Twitter with they can't with a sleepy emotion. Keanu, he put up career numbers last night.
Yeah.
Once Cook fouled out, he took over. I've never seen a guy get a foul line.
20 times. What's the most you ever got to in a game, Matty?
I think probably about 10 or 12, I think. So to get there 20 times shows how dominant he really was out there. He's just going from strength to strength. Just to think, 2 years ago, no team wanted him.
No.
After his stint at Adelaide. Potential's always been there, but he's just needed the right coach to give him that confidence. And 40 is that man. Yeah, he's known him since a junior, so he's really enjoying his basketball. And I think he continues to play like that. He's definitely an MVP favourite, and probably take out the most improved as well.
Yeah, definitely. You got to love his self-belief too. I mean, he feels like he's the best player out there, and he's going out there and backing it up.
Exactly. To put a statement out like that, pretty bold, but hey, he backed it up. So he shows he's got the faith in his ability, and I love watching the way he goes about his business on court.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, Matty, we've got a lot to look forward to this weekend again, but thank you again for your insights and your votes, and we'll chat again next week.
Cheers, Pike.
Okay, back on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle. Very happy to be joined by the Adelaide 36ers Hall of Famer, the only man involved with every Adelaide 36ers championship. Scott, a win over the Wildcats would mean that you're a very happy man this week.
Yes, it is, Chris. Anytime you get a chance to beat the Wildcats in Perth is time for celebrations because, as we know, hasn't always been a happy hunting ground for the 36ers or a lot of other clubs for that matter. But, fantastic win, and it really starting to seem that the team's heading in the right direction and things are moving moving upwards and onwards. So, good signs.
I agree. That chemistry that wasn't there for the first probably month or so of the season looks like it's building now. They're playing as a team. They seem to have the right people involved. I think Mitch McCarron running the point has really helped. Having Sunday Detch and Anthony Drimmick more involved has helped. Antonius Cleveland is getting to play more of a role. And then, obviously, you got Robert Franks and DJ who are being allowed to show what they can do. I mean, it's a fascinating situation. The chemistry is now... It looks like it's right on the team, and I feel like they're building a momentum. And at the same time, I think CJ's still pretty set on bringing in another import. Where do you sit on that whole thing?
Oh, look, I completely understand it. I mean, you touched on a number of very valid points there. The chemistry is great at the moment, so anyone that they bring in has to be a complementary fit for that. So I'm pretty sure there'll be some pretty serious background checks going on, what other imports they're looking at, because, you'd hate for them to start getting rolling and bring in someone, who's going to cause problems with that chemistry. So it remains to be seen. I don't think we've seen that there hasn't been any desperate hurry to bring someone in, and I think that was a fantastic move just to, get guys settled, get some guys, playing with each other, and we've seen the benefit of that. So I expect it to happen. I expect us to sign an import, probably over the next couple of weeks. But I think CJ himself has said, with all the games they had in the quick time, he's now got a chance to sort of sit back and do some homework on no doubt many names that would have come over his desk over the last few weeks.
A lot happening across the league as well, Scott. Wanted to get your thoughts on someone you know pretty well, Sam McKinnon. You've spent a lot of time, with and around over your lifetime in basketball. Did you ever see him being a head coach, even if it is, on a temporary basis?
I think it's a bit strange, isn't it? Like, you've got a general manager who's become, interim head coach, and losing by 37 in his first game probably wasn't ideal. I mean, you've seen it time and time again in professional sports when there's a change of coach. That team normally gets a little bit of a lift for a game or two, but obviously that didn't happen with the Bullets. Look, I remember. Andre Lamanis is a good mate of mine. I remember him talking to him about a succession plan when he stopped coaching in Brisbane, and at that stage, Sam McKinnon and CJ were his assistant coaches, and he spoke very highly of both of them, being able to make that step up and be good head coaches. And I guess, we're seeing CJ, in action over a season and a bit now. So, certainly, Andre rated him highly, and if Andre rates you highly, that's generally pretty good enough for me. So it'd be interesting to see what they do, and if they do appoint another head coach, over the next few games or not.
Yeah, no, it will be. Okay, Scott, what we've got you here for is to pick a winner of the Galen Award for the best team man from NBL Round 8. Thanks to your friends at Sports Card World. I reckon we've got some good candidates. 6 teams had wins across the weekend, and I think we saw some pretty impressive individual team performances. And I want to go back to the Adelaide 36ers, and I think we saw all of the reasons why Antonius Cleveland was such a big signing, and probably his best all-round performance for the club. And I thought he was quite instrumental in the win in Perth. New Zealand Breakers just keep winning. We could almost pick 5 or 6 guys out of the Breakers to nominate for this, but I reckon their 2 big men, Derek Pardon and Jarrell Brantley, once again stood out. I thought go down to Tasmania. Sean McDonald had a massive say in that win over Melbourne United, and he's a development player. I think we forget that. He's playing such a big role on that team. You go to the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and Mitch Creek in his 300th game. I know they had a massive win over the Hawks, but he just continues to do a bit of everything. And then Monday night, Keanu Pinder's performance just cemented himself as an MVP candidate, I think, against the Sydney Kings. He was massive in what he was able to do. Those are the candidates I probably want to throw at you, Scott. Did one of them jump out?
Well, look, I think you can make a case for all of them. I've mentioned to you before, I love the way Keanu Pinder has elevated his game this year. It's just a joy to behold, especially with after him having the struggles he had here, with the 36ers. It would be very easy for me to pick Cleveland, being there'd be a little bit of bias going on there. But I'm going to go with Sean McDonald. I thought, he showed, he was fantastic in that game. He showed great poise, and was really, really important. And it's probably similar here with Nick Marshall, who's also development players. Great to see those sort of guys making the most of their opportunities when they get a chance, and that can kick you onto a long career. Just by taking advantage of the moments, because they don't always come around. It's the same thing I say to the guys in my team. You just never know through injury or foul trouble when your number might be called. You just always got to be ready to go. So I'm going to go with Sean McDonald this week. I thought it was fantastic to see how well he played.
Great choice. Well done to Sean McDonald to win the Galen Award for this week, thanks to Sports Card World. Scott, before I let you go, massive weekend for the 36ers. Firstly against the Taipans and then against the Kings. Real chance to make a statement in both games.
Yeah, it really is. I love the way that Cairns are going about their business. So we're really going to have to match, their intensity. They're going to come in full of confidence and, playing some really, really good basketball. And obviously we know what the Kings are capable of. But yeah, it is. It's a great chance to make a statement. You win both these games. I think all of a sudden the rest of the league suddenly goes, starts taking notice of the 36ers. So. I'm just looking forward to seeing him back home. It's been weeks since we've had a home game, so really excited to see that. See Cairns coming in here and getting a home game on Friday night.
No, you're right. November the 5th was the last home game, so it's been almost a month by the time Friday night comes around. So it'll be a big game. Looking forward to it, Scott. And thanks again for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Okay, back on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle. I'm back with Cody Ellis, my co-host. Thanks again to Matty Knight and Scott Ninnis for giving their time and also their insights. Before we get to Damian Martin's votes, Cody, for the best defensive player this week, running down the list there of Matty's votes, we've got a new leader in his Player of the Year award, Keanu Pinder. Yeah. Probably not a great surprise. And Sean McDonald was the winner of the Galen Award. You pretty happy?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's hard to switch any of Matty's around. I think they're pretty spot on. Really, the only one is probably Derek Pardon's probably a bit stiff to only get 3, but it was a really good round for a lot of players. So I think he hit the nail on the head. And then Scotty 100% with Sean McDonald with the best team man. I can't see anyone else who would have beat him out for that one this week. So as always, the guys got him right.
It's remarkable that he's a development player and playing such a role, and really he was the main reason I think Clint Steindl spent so much time on the bench, because he was playing so well. He was,
and Clint was not on Roth's best side during that game. So he's been really good though. McDonald's been great, and there's been talk from especially Halls. I think it is the one that has been preaching it. Is it being kind of not a junior player, but one of the younger players
Rising
award,
star,
instead of a rookie of the year. And I don't see why it shouldn't be that, because you do have some of these DPs stepping up and playing big minutes now, and the fact that they're not eligible for that award is crazy.
Well, I think him and Sam Wardenberg are the two. If we change the criteria a little bit, they're the two standouts for that award right now.
Yeah, they certainly are. They certainly are. And if you had Lockie Dent still doing what he was doing to start the season, he'd be in there as well. But he's kind of fallen by the wayside a bit, which maybe they should start playing him a bit more. Who knows? Anyway, absolutely. That's another story. But you're right. You're right. I think those two would be in contention, whereas I think Wardenberg has all but sewn it up so far.
Yeah, I think so. Now, Damian Martin, the defensive legends, got his votes for this week as well. And 3 votes to New Zealand, Isaiah Liafa. And I think you could have almost picked probably 3 or 4 Breakers players. Pardon's probably unlucky not to be in the mix. Abercrombie's unlucky, but Liafa had a great weekend. Jack McVeigh from the Jack Jumpers, the 2 votes. Antonius Cleveland with the 1 vote. Sometimes it's tough to pick out defensive performances, but do you think those 3 guys earned their votes this week?
Yeah, look, I think so. You're right. Pardon, again, probably a bit stiff not to get at least a vote, because I thought he was really good this round. But Damo almost needs to pick the whole New Zealand team, because just the way they play defence is unbelievable, and it's just leaps and bounds above anyone else. Tassie's really good, but I think New Zealand is just that step ahead again. So it's got to be tough to pick that, but Jack really does well guarding those positions for, I guess, the lack of his athleticism compared to some of the other bigs around the league. But he's smart and he just gets it done and he's tough. And Cleveland, we all know how good he is and what he brings defensively. So, yeah, look, hard to argue with Damo on those ones, mate.
Yep. There we go. So thank you to all those guys for helping us out. Let's get to round 9 in the NBL, Cody. It's a big week. We've finally got some more action. We've got a few more doubleheaders this weekend to get stuck into, and it starts probably with the game of the round on Thursday. We're back to Christchurch, not to Auckland. So the New Zealand Breakers have taken themselves on the road down to Christchurch, and they host the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. So last time they played, the Phoenix did a number on them. The only time we've probably seen the Breakers really struggle this year was last time against the Phoenix, so I'm sure they haven't forgotten that, and they're in some great form right now. They're on top of the ladder and they're playing incredible basketball, but so are the Phoenix. I mean, this is a great way to start the round.
Yeah, I can't wait for this one. It's going to be a heck of a game, and hopefully it lives up to the hype, because you're right, these two teams are playing some of the better basketball around the league. New Zealand is clicking on all cylinders now, whereas when these two teams first met, they weren't really. They were still trying to get their feet a little bit. And, Phoenix started off the season kind of how they did last year, a bit up and down, whereas now they've got some healthy guys out there. And
I think that was their first game when they were at full strength.
Yeah. And we kind of got a bit of a glimpse at what they'd be like. So, I couldn't tell you who's going to win this one, because it's going to be tough. I do think right now the Breakers have really got a challenge on their hands with on the defensive end. This will be a real test and see how they are across the board, because Phoenix just have so many weapons. So it's going to be an intriguing game, but I'm going to go with New Zealand just because I think right now their form is just ever so slightly better.
Did you ever play a game in Christchurch?
Yep. I've played a couple. So yeah, no, that'll be good. I'm glad that they're kind of touring and, well, not so much touring, but moving up and down a little bit and getting the whole country involved. And it's similar to Tassie in moving around the island a bit and getting everyone around it, because it gives everyone a chance to see them. And yeah, it's been great. So that'll be an interesting one, and I'm sure it'll be a packed house.
Yeah, let's hope so. As good as that game looks on paper, the second game on Thursday probably looks the opposite, but it's important for both teams. So the Brisbane Bullets hosting the Perth Wildcats. We didn't see a response from Brisbane after the coaching change last week, but maybe they get that when they're on their home floor. But, gee, if the Perth Wildcats are going to do anything this season, this is a game they can't afford to drop. Yeah,
they can't lose this one. This has to be a win. This has to be a turning point for them, because if they let another round slip by, then it's getting harder and harder with some of the talented teams around. I can't see them I can't see the Cats losing this one. Brizzy are just...
It's a building Bryce loves playing in too.
Yeah, it is. So, you know, I'm sure we'll see a big game from Bryce, but Perth really need to use this as a bit of a springboard for what's to come. And they just need to be tough. Like, they need to go out.
They have to. They have to make a stand inside, don't they? They have to stand their ground. They can't be dominated in the paint, and they can't lose the rebound count again.
Oh, God. It's just, it's become so un-Perth-like how they've been playing, and I'm sure it's frustrating all around for everyone involved, because I know the Red Army is not overly happy with them right now. So they've got to. They've just got to be tougher. They've got to get after it. They've got to win the rebound count. They've just got to be physical and go back to playing Perth Wildcat basketball. And I think it will be able to right the ship, but this has got to be that game. I reckon the Cats do get it done, but hopefully we see something from Brisbane.
Yes, we need to. Friday night, standalone game, and it's going to be a terrific battle as well. So the Adelaide 36ers back home. First time in almost a month they've played at home, but they're coming off a good win last week, and they host the Cairns Taipans. So this is a chance for us to learn a lot about both these teams, I think. Yeah,
this is a huge game. I think that it's going to be a high-scoring affair because between the two teams, there's not a whole lot of defense that gets played, which is crazy when you look at Adelaide's roster. You know, they should be a lockdown unit, but not overly so far this year. Again, it's going to be tough to see who's going to guard Keanu because he's been unbelievable and his form is just so ridiculous right now. I can't really see Franks or DJ guarding him too well. You know, possibly put someone like Cleveland on him and see how he goes because he does have that bit of height. But he's also got that athleticism to go with Keanu. So on the flip side, you know, they've still got to guard Franks and DJ on the other end of the floor. So, you know, Keanu's only going to be able to take one of them. This should be a high-scoring affair. I expect it to be in the 90s or the 100s for both teams. I think it's tough because I just feel like the away teams seem to have the upper hand every time this season. So I'm going to go with Cairns.
Yeah. Saturday, this is a big challenge for the Perth Wildcats. This is why Thursday night's so important for them. They need to take some momentum into this game because they're heading down to New Zealand to play the Breakers for the first time, and you know both are coming off playing on Thursday. But we know how tough the Breakers are. We know how good they are and how physical they are. Everything the Breakers are is everything that you talked about before that's missing with the Wildcats right now. Gee, they just have to stand up in this game if they want to be a chance.
Yeah, they do. And it's hard to see how the Cats are going to score a whole lot of points against this Breakers defense. Look, Bryce has a fairly good history against the Breakers and making some big-time plays. He certainly did last year. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, both coming off the back of a doubleheader, but New Zealand staying at home certainly helps them. I do think New Zealand gets that one fairly handily, just purely off form.
Yeah, I think the points in the paint number could be something pretty scary.
It could be.
This one.
Certainly could be, and hopefully they stand up a little bit more.
Throwdown next on Saturday night, and Melbourne United have to stand up. I mean, they're 5-8 now. They can't afford to keep slipping, but it's not going to be easy against a Phoenix team that, like we talked about, is finding their groove. Yeah,
they certainly are, and Melbourne need to certainly start to stamp a bit of authority. And I think, especially after the game against Tassie, they'll probably be a little bit deflated after that. After the way they played and somehow losing that one has got to be deflating. But, you know, the old Melbourne stoush, I think that will and always does lives up to expectation. However, I think Phoenix just have too many weapons. And for Melbourne, who are still trying to find their identity on the defensive end a bit, I think their offense is starting to click. But defensively, I think they're still struggling that little bit. And, you know, it'd be interesting to see if Shea's out there. I'm sure he probably won't be.
No, I don't. I think Dean's confirmed that is at least out for another 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, that just makes it tough for them.
Yeah.
Look, I think Phoenix get that one done in front of the home fans.
Yeah. 2 more games on Sunday. This will be a beauty to start things off. So the Sydney Kings back at home against the Adelaide 36ers. And like we talked about before, the 36ers, this is a chance for them to make a statement this weekend. But Sydney coming off a loss, they'll be pretty hungry to bounce back too.
They will be. And it's 2 very tough games for Adelaide in this round. But be Sydney's first game, or first and only. And yeah, you're right. They'll be a little heated after losing that one in Cairns. They kind of let that one slip away. I'm sure Zave will be that extra week healthy or more healthy. So it'll be a tough one. It'll be a tough one for Adelaide. And again, another high-scoring game, I would assume. 2 teams that really just try outscore the opponents. But I do think Sydney play better defence than Adelaide do at this point in time. I think the Kings get that one, and that gives Adelaide 2 losses for the round.
Yeah, and like we talked about before, that would sort of leave them in a precarious position. Maybe they need to make an import choice.
Yeah.
Based on that, if they lose twice, and it's hard to imagine Sydney losing twice to Adelaide at home in the one season as well. So they've got that added motivation. Second up on Sunday, Brisbane Bullets, second home game of the round. They host the Tasmania Jack Jumpers, who'll be fresh and motivated. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any easier for Brisbane. No,
it doesn't. It doesn't, and that's the league. You know, it's each game is just as tough as the one before. Tassie just have that bite that I don't think Brizzy can handle right now, and with so much going on in the background, it's hard to see how the boys will respond on the court. So I think Tassie probably get that one fairly handily. I mean, I can't see Brizzy winning that one.
No, unfortunately not. Monday night, I don't know what the Illawarra Hawks have done to get this schedule. Another Monday night home game, which is not going to help, fill up the Wynn Entertainment Centre, unfortunately. But let's hope for a better performance from them. So they would have had 8 days since that loss to the Phoenix, and they take on Melbourne United, who will be, they can't afford to lose this game either if they want to stay in the finals hunt.
Right, and yeah, I'm not sure who's made this schedule, but it's certainly not in favour of the Hawks and getting people to their games at all. They're struggling enough with how they're playing. They don't need all these Monday night games as well. Melbourne need this one. I think they absolutely have to have it. Hawks, again, still just all over the place offensively and defensively. It's usually a pretty good game between these two, but I do think Melbourne get this one because they'll be playing with their backs against the wall. Whereas the Hawks really have not a whole lot to play for except their pride right now. I think Melbourne gets this one.
Feels like they almost go to overtime every second time they play.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, must win for Melbourne. They can't afford to be 5-10 after this round because that's almost season over. So they just have to win this game.
Yeah, they've got to. They have to do it if they want to stay in the hunt, and they've got too much talent not to. So I think it has to be a win for them.
All right, Cody. We'll wait and see how all that plays out. Thank you to Matty Knight and Scott Ninnis once again for their insights and their votes. Thank you to Damian Martin as well. Thank you to Hoop 7 for making this show possible. I'm Chris Pike, but Cody, thank you for fighting through what you're dealing with right now to make sure we got a show out this week. I hope you and Lauren stay healthy. I hope the mother-in-law can start to enjoy her holiday as well. What would you like to leave us with for this week?
Oh, mate, just looking forward to another good round of basketball, man. I think that the level has really lifted, so hopefully it can continue that trend and keep going in the upward trajectory.